take the fall, and in your mind the clouds have been gathering. You may feel hopeless, but I'll never let you go. Fly through the stratosphere and then I'll rip him screaming from your soul. Oh, we'll watch him fall. Now your clouds are all gone. Come and set your light through. Just set your light through. gasping for a breath. I can taste her sin. The door is open as I go in. I won't let this end. I'll die when I'm done. Starting with a single pair, turning them to solitaire. These things in my head, wandering we don't know where. Come with me, I'll take you there. Just follow your path. Starting with a single pair, turning them to solitaire. These things in my head, wandering we don't know where. Come with me, I'll take you there. Just follow your path. Now there's blood on both hands. You can turn my world upside down, a rush like I've not felt before. I can trust myself. I need you to make it turn. I know. Will you follow me when the sky starts to change? Yeah, we won't be afraid. We'll never be the same again. Will you follow me? We won't leave it to chance. We can't wait our romance. We'll never be the same again. I could keep the light from turning into darkness. You'd be my escape. What have we been told? Is it true or false? Future might seem every spot we're getting close. Will you follow me when the sky starts to change? Yeah, we won't be afraid. We'll never be the same again. Will you follow me? We won't leave it to chance. We can't wait our romance. We'll never be the same again. Will you follow me when the sky starts to change? Yeah, we won't be afraid. We'll never be the same again. Will you follow me when the sky starts to change? Yeah, we won't be afraid. We'll never be the same again. Will you take back what is mine. This is what happens when you start playing with fire. Your desire, everyone burns in the end. You're leaving doors wide open. You're letting the wrong ones in. Your desire, everyone burns. Now get what you deserve. Now your time is wearing thin as I crawl beneath your skin. Not a matter of how, more like a matter of when. 'Cause it's cold when you're lonely. The colors you show me, nothing but gray, hollow and empty. You are nothing. And this is what happens when you start playing with fire. Your desire, everyone burns in the end. You're leaving doors wide open. You're letting the wrong ones in. Your desire, everyone burns. Now get what you deserve. Let it burn, let it burn, let it burn. So you make for your life as you choke on every lie. Know that I can't forget, but I can't forget. Come on, your bridges are burning. Your time's just been waiting. This is what happens when you start playing with fire. Your desire, everyone burns in the end. You're leaving doors wide open. You're letting the wrong ones in. Your desire, everyone burns. Now get what you deserve. You're playing with fire. Now get what you let it burn, let it burn, let it burn. This is what happens when you start playing with fire. Everyone burns in the end.
Doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it all for the thrill. I'm doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it all for the thrill. I'm doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it all for the thrill. You know I'm loving it, loving it, loving it, loving it like you was real. Doing it, doing it, doing
confirmed officer down 1980 Park Avenue.
To find why I'm so dry, trying I can't comply. Why do I deny? This is giving, I'm giving to the world as the world turns around. These rivers flow uphill. Please don't take it all away. Persona, persona. I'm taking even less until more is found by my own two eyes. Why can't we hide? This is breaking, I'm breaking optimism until my soul outshines like a raging fire. Don't you deny persona, persona.
Picture frames of a broken home. Mama's crying on the telephone. Crying out 'cause the money's gone. It always seems like there's something wrong. This I swear is more than I can bear. All your greed took everything from everyone. You crossed the line. I've been beaten, broken down inside. I've been crawling so long with no place to go. I've just been sitting here thinking clear, my whole world just disappeared. I feel like I've died again. Bloody knuckles, broken picture frames, shattered childhood memories. This I swear is more than I can bear. All your greed took everything from everyone. You crossed the line. I've been beaten, broken down inside. I've been crawling so long with no place to go. I will not be broken down from all of the pain you caused. I pick myself off the ground. I will not be giving up. I've made up my mind. I've been beaten, broken down inside. I've been down for so long with no place to call my home. You crossed the line. I've been beaten, broken down inside. I've been crawling so long with no place to go. With no place in her heart, there's a hole. There's a black mark on her soul. In her hands is my heart, and she won't let go till it's scarred. Try to breathe, but I can't, 'cause the air she feeds me is damned. Got a touch like a thorn, 'cause the girl she's hiding horns. She got blood cold as ice and a heart made of stone, but she keeps me alive. She's the beast in my bones. She gets everything she wants when she gets me alone, like it's nothing. She got two little horns and they give me a little She got two little horns and they give me a little She's the fire in the sand, and I burn breathing her in. Now it's love suicide, and I'll sell my soul for the high. Truth be told, I don't mind, 'cause her hell's my paradise. She can crush every hole, got her heels stomping down my bones. She got blood cold as ice and a heart made of stone, but she keeps me alive. She's the beast in my bones. She gets everything she wants when she gets me alone, like it's nothing. She got two little horns and they give me a little bit. She got two little horns and they give me a little bit. She got horns like a devil pointed at me, and there's nowhere to run from the fire she breathes. She got horns like a devil pointed at me, and there's nowhere to run from the fire she breathes. She got horns like a devil pointed at me, and there's nowhere to run from the fire she breathes. Horns like a devil pointed at me. She got two little horns and they give me a little bit.
What is up, everybody? We are back for another Chasing Waypoints production. Is this Chasing Waypoint Productions? I don't know. Adventure Taco Studio. So we're back for another Waypoint Wednesdays, plural. And today we're going to be talking about bike builds. So thank you for those that reached out and sent us some pretty cool pics of their motorcycles. And I got a chance here to quickly put them onto a slideshow for you guys tonight. So we'll be checking that out. But first of all, let's see. Oh, yeah. Instagram let me know that the countdown's almost done. We're here already. So, all right. Let's see. What do we got? First of all, let's do this one. Big shout out. Fabian, welcome back. And then I see David's in there too. First and foremost, I've got some reading to do. A good friend and rally enthusiast, Kent, sent me something, and we were talking about this, which was kind of interesting, about rallies and fully sanctioned rallies and the history of rally in the United States. And he brought something up that was a very valid point. COTA is one of the first rallies, and I say now one of the first rallies in the United States, fully permitted, sanctions, got all of that stuff going. But there was actually one before that, and I got some reading to do. So I want to thank Kent for sending this out to me. I am looking forward to reading it and talking a little bit more about it. So for those of you playing the home game, this is the book about the Nevada rally, which ultimately turned into the Vegas to Reno race as we know it, something that Casey folks and a few other people got into. So not too long of a book. It's got a lot of really cool pictures, like I don't know who's this, Jimmy Lewis waiting for the start on his XR 628. So let's see if you guys can see that there. It's kind of a cool picture there. So I'm stoked. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to reading that. So I will read it, discuss it with Kent, and then maybe we can get him on the show and we'll talk a little bit about it. So that's what we got going on there. Super stoked about that. Let's see. What else do we got? For those of you, so big news today, Sonora Rally finally opened up registration, but then also changed the dates of the event. So we were getting ready for a March 14th to 18th, I believe. But the big news right now is they have postponed the rally all the way till October 17th through the 22nd, which puts it right behind Baja Rally. So should be interesting. I think with the two events close together, and seeing how that rolls. But I think it'll be a good time. So we might have some plans there for that. But yeah, so big changes today, big announcements as far as Rally Raid goes, with the two biggest North American rallies, both being one behind the other. So looking forward to seeing how that plays out and shakes down. And going through that. So that's pretty much it. Been a pretty busy week. Finally got some time to work on Project 501 last weekend, and I'll show you the picture where its current state is. But I was pretty surprised that how quickly the bikes come apart. Obviously, I still got a ways to go as far as parts go and all of that stuff, and the pile of parts is just growing and growing and growing. But thankfully with a lot of help from a lot of really cool people, in making this project happen. And, we'll talk more about that, as that project gets closer and to being done. So I've done a few pictures. I've sent out a few shots and stuff like that, but, I'm excited. I like having everything together and then just like basically starting at the front, and then working my way to the back of the bike and just getting everything dialed. Or, who knows? Maybe I could start at the back, work my way to the front. I guess it just depends. So let's see here. All right. So let's see. We have got that. We've got Sonora Rally announcement. We've got Baja Rally coming up. So now actually Kota Rally. The Kota Rally is going to be the first rally of the year. To start things off, or no, let's see here. Why am I getting all this confused? You would think I'd have this memorized by now. I did do a post on Instagram. So if you guys saw that on Instagram, that was also posted up there. But let me see if we can go back and find this really quick. Because I believe actually the first rally is going to be, you guys can't see it, but I've got my phone off camera here. So I'm not looking at you guys. All right, here we go. Okay, so in May, we have the San Quintin Rally put on by Baja Rally. That is going to be May 20th through the 22nd. That is also the one that's got the school part involved with it. So more details on that. Some more stuff coming from Baja Rally that we've talked about. So I'm excited. Can't let the cat out of the bag yet, but there's definitely some stuff coming with Baja Rally, which is going to be pretty cool. So I'm stoked to see. We've got events going. You've got Baja Rally, you've got Kota, and then you've got Sonora Rally, all lining up and getting set up. So this is going to be cool. It's growing. We've got bigger teams. So if you guys haven't already gone back to not the last, but the first Waypoint Wednesday stream, which is on the YouTube channel. If you guys check that out, we were talking to the American Rally Originals, which is Dave Pearson and Kyle McCoy. And then they're kind of like part of this team, competitors that are going to be doing the Malamoto class, or Motul Originals class, or Originals by Motul. Make it so confusing nowadays, for the 2023 Dakar. So stoked to see how that develops too. Malamoto class is not an easy thing to sign up for, not an easy thing to commit to, but it's going to be really cool. So there is a movie out on YouTube, if you check, from Lyndon Poskett, that talks about the class and the challenges, and is just kind of like a documentary on it. It's some really good stuff. It really does show like what these guys go through and what it's like to be a competitor in that class. So definitely want to check that one out, as well as all of his other stuff. Dude, that guy travels around the world everywhere. And then also has a pretty impressive fleet of rally bikes, 690 rally replicas, I believe. But yeah, so that one, I would check that out. Then from there, let's see, we've got the Baja Rally stuff, a few bikes being built. For that, Sonora Rally coming up as well. Bikes being built for that. We're going to talk about bikes here in just a minute, and bike builds, money pits. I mean, bike builds, as they call them. But, I don't know. I think it's one of those things that if you know what you want out of a bike and you know what you're going to do and you're realistic with it, then you kind of lean on people to give you or steer you in the right direction. To get the right equipment, the right components and stuff like that. And then next thing you know, you got a really solid bike. So definitely looking for it. The guys over at Team 147 checking in. Thank you very much. Welcome. And let's see here. What do we got? Okay. Nevada Rally, Sonora Rally, bikes, Baja Rally news coming. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I don't know. We're basically in the living room, just kind of hanging out. So we are halfway through the week, almost made it. Here in San Diego, it is freezing. It will be down to like 40 something degrees tonight. And I'm sure there's people from back east going insert explicit language here. But hey, it's cold for us. So let's see here. Okay. What do we do? Why don't we go ahead and get into the first bike of tonight? So the first one is coming from actually Jacob Argybright. I don't know if he is tuned in, but he did share a little bit of info from the bike that he is building. Let's see here. Let's go back up. All right. So without further ado, that is the first bike we're going to be talking about. So took a couple of shots of the bike as it sits right now. Of course, there's a long way to go, maybe some graphics, maybe some stuff going down. So what do we have here? It is a 2022 FE 501. We're going to be, or he's going to be getting this ready for Sonora, but it's going to be, he's got some time now. Let's see. It is a 2022 FE 501. No motor mods, leaving it stock. Pipe and an ECU. Bet the guys at Takamoto probably can help you with that. And then it looks like he does have, so this is an interesting one. I got to find out some more about this whole like KYB conversion and WP forks and what that like, what do you notice? Because I mean, you can go, I know with the WP forks, I mean, you could go cone valve, but is it, is that the setup, or is the Showa setup better? What works? And Dave, yeah, that's actually going to be that is a Sonora tower. I'm looking at it and it's like just about the size of my phone on my screen, but I don't know if you can kind of tell from the detail. This does have the Rally Moto Shop Sonora tower on it. And you can kind of tell because the frame that they use at the front of the bike, it's basically designed by the guys that make bicycles. So yeah, Jacob's in here. We are talking about your bike, sir. So that is the Sonora tower on that. So it's kind of like, this is kind of a unique build. It's cool though, because it's like a rally light tower and it's super simple to pull on and off of the bike. And then strong. The way that they've designed that frame to fit in there is really strong. The windscreen that it uses, I believe, is Africa Twin. I'm sure Matthew Glade will tune in later and set us straight on that one. But I think this is going to be a sharp bike. I like the way the Huskies look. I like their combination of that burnt bronze that they use, and I mean, they've been proven bikes. I mean, there's quite a few of them out there, so I think it'll be cool. And let's see, throw it out to Jacob. Did you hear about the change for Sonora Rally already? So I'll give you a second if you're tuned in and heard that. So yeah, so that's the bike there, 22 FE 501, getting set up again by Jacob Argybright for Sonora Rally. So, all right, let us jump to bike number 2. Actually, let's go with bike number 2 and 3. So this is from Rob Kirby on his stuff, and didn't get a lot of specs. We got sucked into a whole nother conversation about bikes and really didn't give me a lot of specs, but pretty simple bike builds here. If I'm not mistaken, this looks like the Aurora Tower on the white Husky 701 down below. Setup there. I always like that setup. It looks really clean and it imitates and it follows what the rally bikes are like. So those tanks on the side, the dual tanks up front. Then they've got that tank underneath the rear of the seat, or basically the rear seat frame. I don't know what you want to call that. They got all that. And then again, the Aurora Tower up front. I believe that is also the Aurora Tower Rebel X for the front of the 890 sitting up top there. And it looks like this thing got the full treatment. So Alex over at Conflict handling the suspension on it. And then on the 701 and the 890. 890 is pretty cool. It's got that full setup from Conflict, Kashima coated uppers, the lowers, DLC, and it's got their cartridges in it as well. What was interesting and caught my eye right away was the Tecmo Moto, the front guards on the 890. It makes that fork look way stretched out. It looks like they're a little bit shorter than normal, than the normal ones for the 890 or 790, and then a Pro Components rear shock on that as well. So pretty rad bike. For those of you that have not ridden a 790 or an 890, those things are absolute animals. Rally mode is a lot of fun on that bike, especially on the wide open roads. When you get into some stuff, the throttle is just like so crisp. And even more so, there's a kit out there for the 790s and 890s, and I believe also for the Dukes. It's like this little shim kit that you put on the throttle tube that takes up some of that slack that you get from, it's the bike is basically fly-by-wire, but it does have a potentiometer in there. So this takes up that slack, so it gives you a little bit crisper throttle. I kind of feel like in rally mode with the rally throttle response set on the 790s and 890s, the throttle is like really crisp and aggressive, to a point where in the like rough and technical sections, you have to be kind of careful about it because you can kind of like whiskey throttle it a lot easier. And on a twin cylinder with 100 horsepower, whiskey throttle is not a good thing at all. So you just got to watch out for that. And then since really Quinn Cody is the only Quinn Cody, well, not much we could do about that, but a lot of talented riders though. I have seen him out at the hare scrambles, and it seems like there are more and more people following in his footsteps, running these big old adventure bikes in those at those races at the hare scrambles and stuff like that. So pretty interesting, but I'm sure we'll get a chance to catch up with Rob and talk a little bit more about these bikes. When I first started the podcast, actually, I had talked to him about going up to his shop and checking it out. When I posted today about, hey, send in some pictures of your bikes and your builds and let's talk. His first response was, which one? I was like, yes, that is a garage. So looking forward to seeing some more of his projects and stuff like that. I see on the 890, he does have the Rottweiler triple clamp system on it as well. The AXP skid plate. So he's got that thing pretty dialed in. I'm pretty sure too, that is the short fender, on the front of the 890, because you can kind of tell the difference from that short fender there to the one down below on the 701. There, the KTM 790, at least my 790, that front fender kind of sticks out a ways. So it'd be kind of cool to put that shorter fender on it, make the bike look a little bit more aggressive. So yeah. So let's see what we got here. Let's jump over, see on the chat what we got going down. Trying to find the right window here. There we go. All right, so let's see. Jacob, yeah. Yep. Yeah, I know it kind of sucks. I think a lot of people were getting ready for Sonora, and then all of a sudden it was like, nope. So we'll see. Hey, there's a few more rallies between now and then, so maybe we'll see you out at one of those. But only more time to prep and dial in a bike. That's all that is. So let's see. Oh, Dave Black. Dave, you know what? Let's get yours in for next show. I'll post it up again. And I enjoy bike builds and checking out, because everybody does like different stuff to their bikes and how they get them going. But let's get you in for the next one. And so send me your pictures, and we'll talk a little bit about that build, because I know you've already put the miles on it. I remember you were out at Vegas for the Mason Klein fundraiser. And then you've already done, I believe, the Kota rally on it. So, yeah, let's talk about how that bike's been working. That'd be really cool. Let's see. All right. So that is that bike. That is the 890. 890 and the 701 from Rob Kirby. So let's now go to, I feel like we're going quick, but whatever. We're just talking about bikes. All right, so next one up, I know a thing or two about. I'm going to throw my bike in there. It's my show. I do what I want. So let's see. I don't know. Not maybe my show. It's our show. Let's talk rally and stuff like that. So anyway, okay. So 2020 790, I completely blame this on Travis from Every Single Sunday. We were out riding in Big Bear. He goes, dude, just try my bike. And I'm not really a keen on riding other people's bikes. It's a thing. But I rode it for just a few miles down the road and was blown away by how well that bike handles. Comparatively speaking to the 850, there is definitely a difference between the 850 GS, the BMW 850 GS, which is a 2019 that I have, and the 2020 790. When I first got the 790, I thought that the bikes were going to be really similar, but after spending a lot of time on both of them, I realized that the 790 is still more bred for off-road performance than the 850. The 850 is a very capable bike, and in much more talented hands than mine, can do some really awesome stuff, but there's just something feels different about the 790, especially in the dirt, versus the 850. Maybe a little more nimble. You don't feel the weight as much because the 850 is heavy. It's about 500 pounds. So, I don't know. But this has been the latest project. This is the bike that I enjoy taking down to Baja, especially if we're going to be running some of the dirt roads and stuff like that down there, because this thing is just awesome. So on this build, we went with the Raid Garage tower on it. He was one of the first to create a tower for the 790, 890s. And I literally was one of the very first to get this. This was still like the very first batch. And for it being the very first batch, was dialed. On the new stuff, there's only some minor changes that I've kind of spotted. There may be more behind it, but at least what I've spotted, the towers are just awesome from Raid. And then from there, so we did that. After speaking with Travis, AXP skid plate all the way. He said that was the way to go. The thing has been flawless so far. Luckily, I guess I don't ride aggressive enough to say that I use the skid plate regularly. Is what it is. There, I said it. So then from there, we did the, let's see, what should we talk about next? We went with the lower power part seat on it just to get a little bit closer to the ground. Not that I really needed it, but I like the feeling of kind of sitting a little bit more in the bike, just ergonomics wise. We did the Pro Taper Windham bend bars on it, which I quickly found out do not have enough control surface area for all of the switches and stuff. So I had to improvise. Got on the CAD, drew up some spacers, threaded the bar ends, and made the handlebars basically, I believe it was like 15 millimeters wider on each side, just to give just enough room to put all the hand controls on with some comfy space. Yeah, it makes the bars a little bit wider. I don't really ride in narrower technical stuff. And it seems pretty comfortable. I'm sure there's people that understand bike geometry better than I do that are like, no, you don't want to make the handlebars wider, but you know what, whatever. It works for me. So I'm just doing this till the flex bars come in, Let's see here. So then what else we got? Okay. The next one, the next mod, I think that was pretty big. Whoa. Well, first of all, so KTM Power Parts gave us the recipe, right? They basically said, hey, these are the wheels to run on these bikes, to kind of make them stronger. But rather than go that route, I talked to the guys over at W, and we came up with a wheel build for this bike that's pretty badass. So it's Excel Taco wheels, and then it is the Han hubs on this. We did go with the thicker spokes on it as well, so the wheel is just bomb-proof. Not that I bombed through anything. Speed bumps at the Starbucks parking lot, maybe. I hit him pretty hard. But, whatever. Peacocking, as we call it. For those of you playing the home game, peacocking are the people that stand up in the Starbucks parking lot that are up on the pegs to go over speed bumps and all that stuff because, it gets a little rough in there. So anyway, okay, so did the wheels. We did the skid plate. We got the Raid Garage tower, the power parts seat. And then the next one is pictured on here. But I have actually since gone away from them, is the Ryan Adventure tanks for the 790-890. The tanks are built really stout. I like them. I think build quality is good. I do have the Raid Garage lowering pegs on here, which are like, if I remember correctly, they're like 15 millimeters lower. Which if you own a 790 and you're not like piling through rocks and stuff like that, this is definitely going to help you feel a little bit more in the bike. I was really impressed, like on the highway in the corners. Sometimes, just because I like to do some peacocking and just stand up in the corners and just kind of enjoy it. You get the wind and everything. And, it's more of a, if you haven't ridden a motorcycle, you wouldn't understand. Kind of thing. But when I did that for the first time, it's like the bike just like felt that much more stable in the corners and cornering and using my feet, to lean the bike and do that. And so I was absolutely sold on them. Where I was going with this is that they are 15 millimeters lower. And because of that, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm not willing to trade the pegs for the tanks, is that the Ryan Adventure tanks actually kind of hit the back of the boot or your calf if you're not wearing a boot. Some people might like that and feel like they're locked into the bike a little better. For me, after riding a full day on it, it was kind of starting to bug me. But I do use my weight to transfer back and forth over the bike. I like to move a lot in the seat and especially standing up. And for me, I kind of felt that it was a little bit of a hindrance there, but still overall good design that was easy to plumb. It really wasn't a thing, but it just, for me personally, that's kind of what I felt. So for the guys that ride the 790 Adventure S, or now the 890 Adventure S, and they do a lot of touring, but they just want the extra fuel capacity, great. Especially if you're not standing up and doing a lot of aggressive maneuvering on the bikes like that, or aggressive movements where you're going back and forth. I think it's a really good option. I believe Rottweiler was working on one. It's been a little bit since we've heard anything about it, but I'm sure it's probably still all of a sudden going to end up on the website. And here you go, hopefully soon. So that was that. We did the Ryan tanks. We did the fender eliminator from Rottweiler. Same thing. We went with the Cyclops turn signals on this, the dual setup type. So it's also got a brake light on the rear. And then from there, this picture a little bit older. The next thing we did was the suspension. So again, working with Alex at Conflict, we did the front, his front setup, which is the Kashima uppers, the DLC lower. It's like his A kit, and it has the Conflict cartridge kit in it as well. So I've been anxious to get some more riding in on it. It does. It definitely feels different. Even the rear shock. So at the time that I got the front forks dialed in, the rear shock still wasn't available. And so we ended up going with just taking my stock shock and reworking it. He worked his magic on it. And even with just some basic stuff, that the shock was just that much better. The bike accelerated out of the corners a lot better. And by that, in adventure bikes, when you're on fire roads, you're going to come across a lot of roads that are choppy coming in and then choppy going out. And that's just braking bumps from coming in either direction from vehicles and stuff like that. It happens. It's washboard. And the first thing I noticed that when accelerating out was that the bike had more traction, and I didn't hear things rattling around behind me. It didn't feel like the bike was falling apart, or like where all of a sudden you just lose that drive because the traction control is doing its thing. That quickly went away, which made the bike, I want to say, more fun to ride, but it also kind of scares you a little more because then you realize how quickly it'll put the power down to the ground. So we did definitely notice a difference in that. But since then, there is now a Pro Components shock on the back of that on it as well, and that got the full conflict touch on it, so valving and spring. So I'm looking forward to riding on that here actually soon, in the next few weeks, I'm sure. Let's see what else. So that was the update on that one. We do have some more. We talked a little about this on the last episode of Waypoint Wednesdays. Was the Raid Garage kit that just came out with the rally tanks on it. So luckily, working with the team over there, we've got a set coming. But it's really, really cool. It basically makes the bike 5 inches narrower at the bottom, and that it comes with the carbon skid plate or the carbon guards that bolt to the stock skid plate or similarly stock skid plates. Does that. It's got like an actual heavy duty radiator brace, because now the radiator sits like right there at the edge of it. It is a dual tank setup, so 2 fill nozzles for it. They're communicated the same way, fuel pump on one side and then with the feeder line across the bottom on it. The cool part is that up top, where they split the tank up top, there's now a little cubby where you can put stuff in, which is actually really cool. So you can fit, in the video, he pulls out a can of Red Bull, a cell phone, a wallet, and then I think a rag or something like that. So it's a pretty good room. You can put some stuff in there. So looking forward to that. And then also the back side of the bike, he does have a set of rear tanks for it, rear auxiliary tanks. So we're going to try those out. Let's see how it works. They are designed around the stock panels. So if the stock panels are okay, you should be fine on this. And that will basically puts you about half a gallon over what the stock bike carries. Stock bike is 5.2. I believe you end up at about 4.5 with the Raid kit up front, but then you add about another gallon back when you do the tanks on the back. So basically the bike ends up having 4 tanks. If you're running their setup, it gets the back tanks, each one gets plumbed into the tank in front of it. If you're running the stock type setup, it just plumbs in on the one side, similar to the Ryan Adventure tanks. But I will say there is a big difference in price between the stuff from Raid Garage and the stuff from Ryan Adventure. So if you are in the market looking for those, you may want to check out the Raid Garage tanks for it as well, because I got a feeling that they're going to be pretty solid. So we got that. They did release their brake pedal and shifter. The shifter is pretty cool because you can adjust it on the fly for the height of the actual shifter, which is nice. So if you're wearing boots or maybe you're wearing your performance street sneakers, not that we would say you should wear anything that's not motorcycle approved or rated or blah, blah, blah. Performed on a closed course in Mexico with adult supervision, for those of you wondering. But you can adjust that height so you don't have to worry about the boot and it just kind of being uncomfortable, which is especially handy if you're running pegs that are 15 millimeters lower. Keep that in mind. Let's see. And then from there, what else is on the pile for that one? We've got the Aero exhaust. We've got the Rottweiler intake. The Rottweiler intake for this thing definitely made a difference. It's the Ass Dyno is reporting about 6.5 more horsepower, I believe. Maybe 6 3/4. I don't know. But if you gun it, you definitely feel it. And what I did really like about it is that it did get rid of this shelf that the bike had, or at least moved it down a little bit. On the freeway when you're at that 70, 75, or I don't know, it's $4,000, $3,800 to $4,000. It's there's a whole nother set of cams in there as soon as you cross over $4,000. and the bike just wants to go. And with the Rottweiler intake, I feel like it actually kind of smoothed that out a little bit, which is kind of nice because, sometimes you want to be at 3,800 and sometimes you want to be at 4,200. It depends on the song that's playing. So definitely check that out. I think that's been the pretty much the list of the mods. Not 100% sure if I'm going to do an ECU on it. That is something for open for discussion. I think it will work better. It will probably run smoother. I'm sure there's probably a lot of people saying, yes, do it. More connections, that kind of thing. And then got to look at the brakes as well on the front, maybe single-sided caliper, something along those lines. I don't know. So just a few more things that I'm looking at, but I'm stoked about the raid kit coming, and then I'm stoked to just get the bike out there. And it needs some miles. Poor thing. I think I've had it. I've already paid the registration once. So I've had it at least a year, and it's probably only got about 4,500 miles. So that is completely unacceptable. Let's see here. Okay. So that was the 790. And then let's talk about the last bike for tonight. Here we go. Yes, there it is. And all right, let's see, I'm reading here, multitasking here. Let's see, Fabian, can you talk a little more on suspension? Is OE factory suspension good enough, or should every rider consider Pro-Tuned suspension? That is a great question. Depending on the bike, the first thing, I'm thinking back in the experience, like talking with Alex and some of the stuff that was suggested. If there are adjustments on the suspension, so first and foremost, sprung for your weight and for what you're going to be riding. I think that's like, you can't judge the valving and you can't judge the performance of the shock if the spring is not correct for your weight. But the ride height and the sag is correct. Yes, but where I learned this is on a F800 GS that I had, and the spring rate on it was good, but when I would load the bike down, it would definitely get loaded. So my first instinct was to crank the preload on it. Then what ends up happening is the spring has so much built energy stored. Right, a spring just basically stores energy and is designed to hold it up. And I don't know, there's a whole engineering side of what a spring and how a spring works. But basically, the more pressure you put on it, the more pressure is ready to go back out the other way. So what ends up happening is if you take a spring and you try and preload it so much just so you can get the correct ride height, you end up throwing the dynamics of the suspension off. So you hit a bump and it's eager to jump up and extend again because it's got all that stored energy. So the correct spring rate will not do that. So realistic with your weight, not what you told the DMV, and then getting that right set of springs on there. Once you have the right set of springs on it, then I think it's time to judge the valving and how it works. So depending on the bike that you're on, that could be a couple of different things. If you have a bike that has a lot of adjustments or has adjustments from the factory, case in point, like KTM 790, sprung for your weight, and then maybe mess with the clickers and try and figure out, right? If you look at the airbox on that bike, it comes with the like sport, off-road, Spirit. It comes with these different settings. So you want to kind of experiment with that, just to try and see what you can find that might work better for you. If you want to go into the actual, like if you're talking like BMW, where BMW has dynamic off-road enduro modes and stuff like that for them, then I encourage you to definitely take some time and try the different ride modes out and kind of find your balance. And the best way to do that, and actually where I live out here, there's a great dirt road. It's about 8 miles long. Proctor Rally Road, as some of those call it. if you ride in that, you can kind of go a couple of times and figure out what each setting does, how like, for instance, the ABS, like if you put it in enduro mode, how the ABS reacts and how the traction control reacts. And it's important to know that because you're going to need that later on. If it's an emergency situation or just because you're riding in a more spirited manner, you kind of want to know that. But if you're messing with the suspension settings, then you want to do that so you know, like, okay, well, you know what? This is how it feels like in dynamic. Or I tried it in enduro and it wasn't all that. I tried it in Enduro Pro and it was much better, but I didn't like this. If you're on the newer ones that have the touch screen, now we're talking BMWs. If you're on the newer ones that have the touch screen, you can actually tune your traction control and ABS settings on it as well. And so that also helps kind of dial in like what you want to do. And then you also got to remember, if it has the ESA stuff, there is a sensor back there that's a potentiometer that's measuring the travel and where it is in the travel and how aggressively it's moving. So then it kind of adjusts the dampening according to that. So there's a few different, so you definitely want to try the different modes on it. And if you are trying to go up a step on the bigger bikes like that, if you talk to, like say here in San Diego BMW motorcycles, they can get you connected with the right shocks for it if you're going to be doing a little bit more of aggressive riding. There's the stock shock that comes with the bike. Then there are different companies out there that make different versions of the shock that are, one, rebuildable, which is big. The stock BMW one, I think some people say it is, but you got to have special tools and a blessing from some higher up in the church to be able to disassemble them and get them together again. But there are shocks out there that are electronically adjustable, so they will play nice with the ESA or electronic suspension adjust. And then there are shocks that also on top of that also have their own clickers that you can mess with, or even have a bypass for the ESA. So then you can also put, you can adjust the clicker. So on the BMWs, they're a little bit trickier to dial in, but they can be dialed in. And that goes for pretty much any bike. But the big thing, I think, just starts at getting it sprung for your weight. When you talk to a lot of these big companies, the first things they're going to come after is going to be rider weight. How often do you ride with a passenger? Are you running the panniers? What side do you put the kitchen sink on? Is the latte machine in the back or on the center one? You know, like, they want to know the weight, and you have to be realistic with them, because if you give them the DMV number, it's going to be off, and it can be off by just a little bit, but that's something that you could make a difference between the bike feeling dialed and feeling good, and maybe not so much. So I believe the front springs aren't as delicate as the rear springs, but suspension, I love the whole concept and dialing it in and getting all of that stuff. But there's people that know a lot more about it than I do, that can argue about, you know, how touchy the rear spring is in comparison to the front spring as far as spring rates go. So yeah, so hope that answers a little bit, but start slowly. Don't go full send. It ends up costing a lot of money. And let's see here. Okay. Dave Black, what do we got here? Okay, so your suspension is still stock, except for the spring upgrades. Not having my suspension done means I don't know what I'm missing. You know, it's interesting. We talked about this on the episode that I did with Alex on the Chasing Waypoints podcast. So you could rewind back. I don't even remember. That was, you know, several episodes ago. And there was a case to that, and it's very true, and I've seen it, and I'm guilty of this, is that usually the first thing that happens is you go through the whole page, the whole catalog, and order everything off of every single page. And if it's a KTM, it's all orange. Husky, it's all blue, or that gunmetal color that they use, or that bronze. Pretty sharp. Anyway, it seems like suspension's always kind of like the last thing on the first bikes. And then after it gets done and done correctly, it's always the first thing to get done on the next bikes. And I think that still rings true. I remember when we were out at the Mason Klein fundraiser with Happy Dave, and there was a conversation about the suspension and all that stuff, and being on the right track. So you've got the springs for your weight. I think the biggest thing that I learned in suspension is, do your base setting. So if you look at the manual, there's going to be a base setting for it. And then from there, pick a section that an area that you're familiar with, something that you feel like that's where you kind of ride, and that's, you want to know how the bike's going to react to on that. And then start making adjustments on the clickers. There's a lot of really cool videos on YouTube, particularly from the Rocky Mountain ATV guys. I've seen a few of their videos, and I reference them just as a refresher every so often, because if it's not something that you do, I feel like it is a perishable skill. You forget, certain things. But one of the big things is that if you know where your base setting is, don't be afraid to turn the knobs, but understand what the knobs do or what the clickers do. So if you check those out, you can kind of get an idea of what they do, and they explain where you're going to feel the changes, and then go mess with it. And if you get lost and it just gets, okay, well, I'm going back to the base setting. So by doing that, when then you go talk to somebody like Alex, you have a better idea. It's like, hey, I feel like this bike could be a little bit more plush, or I feel like when I hit a square edge, it goes from the bottom of the travel to the top of the travel, and like nothing is there. And then you have like your setting that's already in there. So based on what you're saying and what you're kind of feeling, then you can prep the suspension guy a little better for what you're expecting. And what that's going to do is, like, maybe it won't avoid all the trips back to the suspension guy, but it may be at least one less, so that way at least they kind of get it a lot closer in the first. And you got to remember, there's a lot of room to adjust on the clickers. So go big. If you're going to do one click, do 3 or do 4. Oh, that was too much. Back it down. Okay. 4, 2. Well, let's see. Do I need a little less or do I need a little more? Okay. I'm going to go to 3 clicks out from where I was originally. I need a little less. Okay. I'm going to go 1 click down. And then once you got it, write it down. And then, you know what? I'm going to go the other way and I'm going to try it. Obviously, you got to keep in mind that you got to be careful, because the suspension is going to be changing and the bike is going to be reacting differently. So you have to kind of be comfortable with that. I've seen it done in vehicles. I've helped tune a lot of off-road cars, and it's the same thing. And the best part about that is that they're in the vehicle. Okay, I'm going to try this. What are you feeling? What does it look like? You watch them make a pass, and then you can kind of see, well, you know what? That tire's not falling to the ground as fast as it should. Let's try open up the rebound. It feels like I'm third whoop in, and it feels like the car is sagging, or in this case, maybe the bike is sagging. Okay, well, your rebound in that area may not be fast enough. Or it could be rebound, or the compression is too soft and you're just blowing right through and you're ending up at the top of the shock instead of being down here in the bottom. So there's a lot of little things that you can kind of pick up on once you start riding some more. And then once you have, like, if you have somebody that's filming it, you can kind of see, because sometimes you're not going to really notice the difference right off the bat, especially as you get more and more tired, but you may notice that your body position changes. You feel a little bit more relaxed, and especially what you're building, like on the rally bikes and even on the adventure bikes, is the idea is to be able to ride the bike for a long period of time. So you don't want a race suspension necessarily. You want a suspension that's comfortable and that's predictable. I can hit that and I know what it's going to do. That's really what you're after. So don't be afraid to mess with the clickers, but don't forget to do a base setting, because if you don't do a base setting, then you're going to be all over the board with that one. So that's at least my recommendation. Again, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of information on YouTube of people that know a lot more about it than I do, but that can at least get you like familiar with, okay, I'm going to do this now, and then I'm going to do this, and keep track of the changes. Carry a little book, just take a look, write down what you're doing, write down the clicks, that kind of thing, and then just go from there. So let's see here. All right. Settings, enough miles on them. All right. Let's go back here. In all honesty, I'm trying to tweak the stock settings to get enough miles on them so I have a productive conversation with Alex at Conflict. There you go. Yep. That's exactly it. What you got to do. How many miles will you put on before you make a trip? Make that trip. So I'm just going through here. 900 miles. Yeah. I mean, on this one, it's an interesting thing. You know, it's like how many miles do you feel? If you're really getting to learn it and really getting into dirt bikes, I think flushing it out to the point where you feel like, okay, I think I've done as much as I can with this. I think it's time to go. And it doesn't mean like, it's something that you could start the conversation. Like you could start the conversation with Alex now. And I did this with the 790 and I asked him, hey, look, this is what I'm feeling. What do you think? He's all rebound, all of it, get it out. Like let that thing fall back to the ground. It's probably way too tight. So there are some things that will help you like get ahead by simply just, starting the conversation now. And then he may tell you, hey, try this and try that and see what you think. And then that gives him an idea. Definitely with the suspension guys, it is a relationship thing because each rider has a slight, like what's plush to me may be super soft to you or vice versa. What's harsh to me might be like, suck it up, dude. This is, you're going to go hit this stuff. So you need to have that, there. So probably never really too early to start the conversation. But I do think there may be a slightly too early to just put them in a box and send them away. If you don't have an idea of what you're kind of looking for or the like being realistic. If you go on Conflict's website, you'll see he has a rider profile form on there. You can fill that out, but just like we were talking earlier about what weight to list on there and your riding abilities and stuff like that, you have to be really honest with yourself because that makes all the difference in how the suspension gets initially set up. So, all right. And let's see. I think I'll have it dialed in as best as it can be with the next 200 to 300 mile. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Once you feel like it's like, okay, I feel like this is a really good setup. I think we can move on from here. Then it's just a matter of getting it done. And then sending it, to somebody like Alex. I will say, a lot of guys do have, like they already kind of know like, oh, this suspension from this year, was a little bit this, so you need to go ahead and do something else with it. Like we were talking earlier on Jacob Argybright's bike, doing the Showa conversion on the WP forks. I don't know the science behind it. It's two competing manufacturers, but there's got to be a reason behind it, and there's got to be some stuff on it. And obviously the Honda bikes, that run the Showa stuff stock, do very well. So it's not like it's not like it's necessarily a Band-Aid, so to speak. So I don't know. That's how I see it. And, so yeah, suspension. I think it's probably now after committing the mistake, I think that now it should be like the first page, on project 501. I still have the suspension here. We're waiting on some stuff. From Alex, and I'm just curious to see. I mean, he, I think him and I are now more about similar weights. He's been on it getting ready for Sonora, and he kind of knows what he's doing. We've talked about it. He's dialed in already one bike for me, so I feel like we got an idea of what we're after. And you know what? And at the same time. And actually this is interesting, is talking to my friend Gnarly Dave. His WR that he uses to make all these road books is basically just resprung and stock suspension. So even if you get it close and just a little bit more compliant and just better all around, it's still good enough. But that's being realistic. It's not a race bike. It's just something to go out and, go do stuff. So that's how I see it. So yeah. Get it done. Get that suspension going. Take a sip of my non-adult beverage. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So let's jump over to the final bike. Let's talk about Project 501 and excuse the professional photography skills based on the iPhone with the super wide lens and the mess in the garage on this one. So Project 501, as I've happily named it, because it feels about that's how many projects I've got going on, is a 2016 FE 501 that I actually picked up off of one of the Moto Medics from Baja Rally, Donnie. And this was one of her bikes that she used for and chasing down in the Baja Rally. And so very well taken care of bike, not ridden hard. It's just, but it's a ridden bike. So it's cool. It's proven. Picked it up and, right away it's like, all right, I know what the main goal of this bike is, to make a bike that I can go do road books on, but that's not the 790, because the 790, as much as I love that bike and the horsepower and all of that stuff is great, it is a 400-pound bike every time it wants to be a 400-pound bike. And the only thing better than a 400-pound bike is a 250-pound bike, or 275, I don't know, whatever it weighs. So on this one, more progress picks to come, but I just basically started taking all of it apart, cleaning everything as I took it apart, inspecting it, checking the bearings and all of that stuff. So I know the bike is taken care of, but I figure, you know what, I might as well get familiar with it. So I've got that taken care of. Front forks are off, rear shock's coming off next, but a little bit about the build. Starting at the front, we're doing the Moto-Minded tower. So I already picked that up from Chris, who's super awesome. Showed me the tower. The thing is absolutely stout and dialed. I did get to see one in action at Sonora Rally, and the thing is tough. So we went with the Moto-Minded tower up front. I had a pair of Squadron S4s lying around with the yellow lenses. So talked to Chris, shipped them up there. He set them up, mounted them in there, wired it up for me. The thing is dialed. Which, by the way, if you're going to pick up a one of the Moto-Minded towers, you can always pay the little bit extra and have him build it for you. Put it all together, all nice and neat, packaged up and ready to go. So that's what we went with. And the thing is just stout. So I can't wait to bolt it on. I may even get a chance to bolt it on this weekend. So that's the front. Doing the Moto-Minded tower. We've got the suspension, working on that. Still up at the front, we've got the Galfer floating rotor for up front. Had a conversation with Travis at Every Single Sunday, which if you haven't, you want to jump over and check out his channel. He has I believe it's a FX. I'm not familiar yet with the gas naming, but he's got a really badass gas 450 that he just built up as a rally, or like a rally light kit. It's got the Moto-Minded tower on it. Seat Concepts, Galfer, FMF. I don't know. The whole bike. You just got to go check it out. So you can follow him on his YouTube. If you just look up Every Single Sunday on YouTube, you'll find it. Or if not, on Instagram as well. So awesome bike builds that he's doing. I think he just finished one up for Simon Cudby too, of Off-Road Underground. So definitely want to check that out. So wheels. We talked to the guys over at W. They did the wheels for my F800. Which was really cool. We converted the rear from a 17 to an 18 inch on the F800, which was dialed. And then we did we did that one. They did the 790 for me. And then of course, we got him to do some wheels for us for this project 501. And from there, we did the Han hubs, we did the Bulldog spokes, or the thicker spokes, and then with a set of Excel wheels on it as well. So, or were they DIDs? I don't know. I got to look in the garage. Anyway, so wheel game set up. Not worried about it. Rubber on this one. I've always been a fan of trying different things. So we're gonna try some Metzler MC360s that I just picked up from the guys over at San Diego BMW. And then San Diego BMW motorcycles. I want everybody showing up at the car dealership. With that, we've got the chain and sprockets set up. We've got, thanks to Skylar House, hit him up. He gave me the secret sauce on the gearing to run for the off-road side of things. And then from there, Achirby's, getting a bunch of their plastics and stuff like that. We got the tank finally in. We went with the 4-gallon tank, not with the 4.8 or whatever the bigger one is. 4-gallon tank there. We did the front fenders and all that stuff. Didn't need the headlight mask. We got the Moto-Minded tower. see what else. Just like little miscellaneous stuff, right? All these little things. The thing with these bikes and the bike build and why I'm excited about this bike build is that I like the idea of taking the bike, going through everything, figuring out what it is that like I feel like it needs, and then just basically dialing everything in, right? I mean, even as much as like literally bugging the guys at W, like, hey, let's talk rim locks really quick. I just need to know what to, what do we run? What's the good stuff out there? Little things like that will go a long way. And talking to Mike Johnson, I picked up some tips from him, Mike Johnson from Rally Comp, about, setting up tire and wheel combos and what they run and stuff like that. So all these little things that you pick up and learn that you're like, I would have never have thought that. So I definitely want to get that. Dave, it is 1450, 14 tooth front and a 48 rear. Sorry, 1448 is what he recommended we gear that for the 501. So I can get that. But in doing so and looking around, it seems like that I've asked a couple of other people independently, and I got that same number from a couple of other people. But then I also did get a 1450, which is the stock rear sprocket, I believe, but then going up one tooth on the front, if I'm not mistaken, or down one tooth or 30, I don't know, something like that. But yeah, 1448 is what they recommended. So I'll confirm that because I have it in the garage. So I'll shoot you a message with it just to make sure I'm giving you the right info on it, because I see what they're doing. It's like they're gearing it taller because I think the thing just has so much power. So it is a 500cc engine, we're in the land of the 450s. So I think, gearing it a little bit taller for Baja is probably not a bad idea. So we'll do that. Let's see where we're at. We got that. We'll do the, we've got the gearing, we've got the tires, we got the swing arm protectors, on it, all the Chirby stuff. So I don't know. I'm just stoked on building this thing and finding out like all these little details and stuff like that, right? Just like, okay, what's the dialed setup? What's the good stuff? What's the stuff that, you're like, nah, just leave it stock. It'll work fine. So that I enjoy the process of the bike builds, and doing that kind of stuff. Of course, ASV levers. I wish they made the ASV levers for the 790, 890, but apparently there's not enough of those bikes sold yet. So hit your local KTM dealer, buy more of those bikes so then we can get ASV to make us some levers. I love those things. They adjust very nicely. Like, I'm like really picky. Like, I like having the lever right in the whatever the medical name is for this part of the finger, right at the fold, because then I feel like it's just like crisper and right there. And it always seems like no matter what levers I got, they were always either a little bit too close or a little bit too far. I could never just get them right dialed in. But the ASV levers, they have their clicker. It's like, I forget what it is. It's like 2.5 inches of adjustment, and it's got like 180 positions or no, it's like 60 positions per turn. So it's like you could super fine tune it, which was awesome. So I loved it. Again, I just wish they made them for the 790, 890, but eventually. Okay. So let's see. I'm thinking that's pretty much it. It's already got the FMF pipe on it. Like Donnie had this bike dialed in. Had the FMF pipe, had the moto-minded front headlight conversion to the Baja Squadron S4, Baja Design Squadron S4. Already has the computer in it, or the ECU already done on it. Lithium battery. It's got all this stuff. So I'm kind of up for debate. So if you guys have made it this far in the show, I'm up for debate on the lithium battery thing. So here's why. A lot of people on lithium batteries jump on the it's lighter bandwagon, which there is no disputing it. It is lighter. But the number that's kind of deceptive, and I think this is like the, what do we call it? It's like the net carbs number that you see now on foods, where they take the carbs and then subtract the fiber and then, hey, it's net carbs. It's good for you. amp hour rating, right, for a PB or PBEQ, so lead equivalent is what they call it. And so the cranking amps match up. But what they don't really tell you is that the lithium batteries generally do not have the same reserve capacity that a AGM battery, absorbed glass mat battery, has. Now, why is that important? If you leave the key on, or if you leave the light on while you're sitting there talking to your buddies and you forget, you have half the time that you would normally on the actual AGM battery. And I know this because I looked up the lithium battery that's in it, and then I looked up what's supposed to be in the bike, and I looked at the amp hour rating, and it's literally half. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if I'm in the middle of nowhere, and the bike's being stubborn and it's being hard to start and, you know, that kind of thing, and I'm going to have to start it a few times, that means I'm going to drain that lithium battery a little bit quicker. So now, okay, well, maybe I should be carrying one of those jumper or booster packs or whatever. You know, they're all anti-gravity, makes some that are super tiny now anyway. Maybe I should be running one of those. Or, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing, although on these bikes, the weight is up in the highest possible point of the bike, right under the rear seat or right under the seat. So having a lighter battery there will make a difference, but I wonder if it's worth it, right? Is it worth the lighter weight and the lower reserve capacity than the higher weight with the higher reserve capacity? You know, which one? I don't know. So toss a coin and let me know what you guys think down below. And yeah, so we'll maybe open that for discussion. I want to do some, gonna try and get some, maybe some tech stuff going on here. Maybe talk handlebars, maybe talk some brakes. Computers is one I'm kind of curious, or I should say ECUs. I will say I'm in the 501, like literally like, it's like waiting for me to touch the button to start it. It's crazy. That's how quickly it starts. Is it because of the computer? I don't know. Maybe that'll be something we can figure out together. So we'll see what can we come up with on that one. So, all right, let's see what else you got going on. All right, so that's Project 501. We talked about the Austrian, which is what I call my 790. And then we've got the Kirby bikes, the 701. The one not pictured here is the 501. If you want to get your eyes on that one, go over to the Moto Minded website and then look up the Rally Tower, and you'll see the pictures of Kirby's bike on there. That thing is badass. 501. Same complex suspensions, got the tank. I did notice it has the rear tank, which I'm kind of curious about. Maybe. We'll see. More gas is not a bad thing. Let's see here. And then what do we have here? And then, of course, we talked about the bike that Jacob Argybright is building, which I'm a fan of, too, because it's super simple. It looks like it's got just the right things and what it needs. That Sonora Tower's got the... looks like it's got that KYB conversion. I'm going to pick some brains on that KYB conversion because I'm curious to see why you would maybe choose that over a cone valve setup. You know, maybe there's some light there that could be shed on that and find out some more about it. But that thing's looking badass. Can't wait to see it at Sonora or maybe sooner. We'll get see it out at one of the rallies out in the middle of nowhere. So let's see, what else do we have? I think that's pretty much it. We pretty much got an hour, so not trying to go too long. I do have to go to bed. I'll be up again at 3:30 in the morning. I've got to be out the door by 4 a.m. So the batteries are running low. And yeah, we'll get that going. So with that being said, I appreciate everybody tuning in and sticking around for Waypoint Wednesdays. And I'm looking forward to doing this next week. We'll talk a little bit more about it for those of you keeping track and that are subscribed to the Chasing Waypoints website, podcast on all your favorite podcast channels. I did not get an episode up this last Sunday and / Monday. I was waiting for some news to be released, but it was not, which is totally cool. There's stuff going on. And so I'm probably going to upload a excerpt from the original or the very first Waypoint Wednesdays. So you guys can listen in on that one. If you haven't tuned into the live show, you can check it out on the podcast as well, or if you prefer to listen to it on the podcast. But basically, we were talking with Dave Pearson and Kyle McCoy of the American Rally Originals, one of the teams here in the U.S. that's looking to go to Dakar. In this particular case, they're going to Dakar on the Motul or Originals by Motul class. So stay tuned for that one. You guys will probably get that one up maybe tomorrow. I just got to edit it up really quick and get it uploaded for y'all. So anyway, hope everybody has a good evening, and we will talk to you guys soon.